All right, welcome to Pod. Hey, NCAA lost another court case. Losing streak continues. From the AP, literally the lead. There they go. NCAA lost another legal battle Friday. Me and the AP thinking alike. As the federal judge barred the organization from enforcing its rules prohibiting name, image, and likeness compensation for recruits by granting a preliminary injunction demanded by the states of Tennessee and Virginia. We obviously covered this when it began. It will allow a collective, a school's collective, to negotiate directly. That was the case involving directly with a student athlete or his family or his agents or whatever. That this would be his compensation if he comes to the school. This is already being done quietly by most schools. I know it's a landmark moment because it's now official and you could just do it. University of Tennessee has played this very smartly, done a great job with it. They never thought they were going to be violating any rules or the rules would be deemed illegal, and they have fought it, gone right after the NCAA, and they have stomped them. And they now have this preliminary injunction. This injunction just says, look, there are no NIL rules right now, which from the start I have been calling for. No guardrails. Live a little, people. We can do this. We will survive. The nanny state can end. No guardrails. It's going to be okay. But Tennessee did this, and good for them. They have beaten the NCAA. The only way the NCAA gets to enforce their NIL rules again is if they can somehow find a federal judge to go with this. If you read this court ruling, good luck. That doesn't sound good. And eventually this case, because it is a federal case, would arrive at the marble steps of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., where we know 3 years ago, the NCAA lost a case 9-0, and Justice Brett Kavanaugh made extremely clear he believes the NCAA is in complete violation of antitrust rules, is not above the law, and in a scathing concurring opinion, basically said, do not show back up here. You are going to lose even worse than you just did. Do not test me or the rest of these people here. So I see no hope for the NCAA to be able to come up with NIL rules. I have thoughts. I will save more of them till later. Pat, yours on this.
Yeah, this was a absolute haymaker for the NCAA, and one I think you could see coming with the language that first came out when they were discussing a temporary restraining order. No doubt about it, Tennessee got a home field advantage here. They went to a judge in the eastern part of the state there, but exactly as you pointed out, the path forward to beating this on a national scale is blocked. It's closed. If the NCAA tries to push this up the ladder is going to break on them. It already has. I think Ross has used the phrase several times that the courts have made it clear they think the NCAA's way of doing business is illegal. This furthers that, and I think the NCAA is in a world of hurt trying to enforce any rules. There might be some, but NIL, forget it. No, it's over. And yes, the screaming for guardrails, the gnashing of teeth and rending of garments in Congress and athletic director offices and conference offices, forget it. Sorry, it's over. It is free market, free agency right now. So that's the way the courts ruled, and the NCAA is going to either try to find a way to regroup or just stop enforcing rules.
Yeah, it's just another chip on the NCAA's bedrock of amateurism, which very little of is remaining. Right, it's been chipped away by court rulings now since the O'Bannon case, and little by little, it's fading away. And to replace it, there's got to be, a new model. It's never been more clear that college athletics needs a new model that includes some kind of direct athlete compensation to athletes, and maybe a regulated, some kind of framework or something. It's collective bargaining. It's got to be something different. Too much money at the highest levels is being spent and being made, and so this is where the industry is. And we talked about it on the show a lot, but you might not agree with that, right? You might think, and plenty of probably athletic directors and others in college athletics don't agree with it and think we can all turn back the clock to the quote good old days. But agree or not with it, the courts have made it clear, and we're run in this country by the courts, and they say that the NCAA's rules and amateurism rules specifically are against the law. And so that's why we've seen the Big Ten and SEC get together and start working toward a new model. That's why you see Charlie Baker of the NCAA, right, drop a new model in December. He's on the way to, I think, modifying that model. Charlie Baker is still, I saw he told ESPN about needing congressional help. I think he's grasping onto that, but I'm not sure that that's the answer. I think folks in the SEC and Big Ten and maybe in other leagues have kind of pushed that aside and are looking at how to create a new model that will be legal as opposed to illegal.
Yeah, and this is what has frustrated me with this entire thing is this day was coming. It's not a debate. It's not a what do you want? What does this want? You'll hear all the time, look what this group's done. It's all going to be decided by the courts. And it was very clear early on. That's why I kept yelling about guardrails. I made a joke of it. What are they doing? Like, it was just a waste of years. We need you're not going to get any guardrails. You can't enforce this. It's not legal to enforce this. It doesn't make any sense to enforce this. Protect what you can protect. If I'm Charlie Baker, I'm going in trying to pass an extremely small bill, like, please don't make Division III and Division II, and if you want to opt in, like, just those two, Division II and Division III athletes, employees. We'll start with that. Pass that and save Division III and Division II sports. Because we know that eventually these guys are going to be ruled employees, and a Division III school cannot afford to pay minimum wage to 20-hour-a-week practice schedules, nor does anyone really think they should. They aren't making any money off this. The teams are actually money makers for them and just enrollment. Nobody wants to see Division III sports go away. It's a positive thing. It's a good thing. It's not exploitive. It's good. Keep it. Let's find a way to keep it. They should have been focusing on things like that. They kept pretending this wasn't happening and yelling guardrails and coming up with illogical, just fairy tale concepts. And you listen to head coaches and they go, well, I don't like this. This isn't what it used to be. Well, why don't we try this? And you go, well, that's going to be deemed. Well, I don't know much about how the courts, I don't know all that legal stuff. That would be like their thing. You talk to them and you're like, well, Brett Kavanaugh does. Sorry. Like, this is the reality. The players are going to be deemed employees. There's going to be contracts set, and that will change. It'll be direct payment from schools, and that will solve most of the whatever worries people have or this or that. If they didn't, though, if that wasn't coming, and it is, but I'm just saying, not having NIL rules is no big deal. There's a lot of screaming over oh my God, it's going to be even the wilder West. There's no need for these rules. If you just let the free market play out, then this kid will go here and this kid will go here and this collective will pay this. They had a pretty good system where they're getting their boosters to pay for the players. And like, nothing bad really happened. It's not going to be quote unquote worse. All the stuff they said was going to happen, the Armageddon didn't happen. It's not going to happen on this step either. It's okay. It's okay if a collective brings this, if this 4-star goes here and this 5-star goes here, as long as they're playing college football college basketball or whatever other sport you want them to play, the whole of college sports will be fine. There's nothing bad has happened. No matter how much people scream that something bad has happened. Where is the problem other than the perception that the problem is coming? Fear, the only fear people have is fear itself. No big deal. Nothing happened here.
Did you just go FDR on us?
I did. I'm trying to calm the nerves.
Look at there.
Well, I am though. Relax. It's okay. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened in the last 4 years of NIL that has been so tragic?
Here's what happened.
Find it.
I will tell you in the minds of the competitors, the coaches, and the athletic directors, people started taking each other's players. That's what happened.
That was the transfer portal, but okay. But
yeah,
even then,
but yes, it was, it's NIL, it's transfer portal intertwined. And that's we've said, I don't know how many thousands of times on the podcast, that once you start getting into a competitive situation where somebody is getting over on someone else, that's when they lose their minds. And that's when they can't handle what's going on, and they clamor for change. And then all of a sudden, the NCAA tries to change something.
So to them, they believe, and then when they take someone's players, it's just because someone was looking for a good opportunity.
Sure. I mean, look, we all know the double standards. We've all talked to all these coaches about these things. Yeah. This kid really wanted to come here, but the other kid didn't want to go there. They just came and took him. That's the way, that's the mindset that we're dealing with here. That's part of the big part of the problem.
It's like, this comes after like decades and decades of doing like recruiting for the most part one way, right? Which is like, relationship with coaches. You like the school, the history of the school, geographically, you're close to your family. Like all these reasons normally that maybe players pick a school, that's been, done, and everybody's used to that. Change is hard, and I think the change is now there's another determining factor, right? And maybe there used to be under the table a determining factor always, right? For many places.
Always.
But I think that now, obviously, it's more out in the open. It's probably being, as far as the money, is probably more than it ever was, and it's become a more of a determining factor, money in where a player goes, and that's change. And it's
do we know that though? Do we know that?
Well, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, I think 24/7 actually fairly recently did a really good Q&A with like a survey, a poll at one of the All-Star games. I thought it was really well done, and it broke down determining factors of NIL and the NIL money. And I think, I don't remember what they settled on, but it was in the top 3 of things, right?
But it wasn't, it was relationship with I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not number 1 necessarily.
As long as it was close. Right? As long as it was close. But it's probably higher on that list than ever before, I would think. Well, they can admit it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that it's hard to change, and everybody's just going to have to realize that that's going to be a big determining factor, especially going forward when you have like contracts and you have direct pay. Like the money is going to be a determining factor, and we're just you're all going to have to get used to it. This going back to this ruling specifically with the Tennessee Virginia case. We talked a lot about the 30,000-foot view of this and what it does to the future and the amateurism, the bedrock of the NCAA's amateurism. But really on like a granular level, I don't know that this changes anything, right? 'Cause this was all happening, right? Inducements were happening, tampering was happening. Maybe it increases a little bit, I guess, because now the NCAA can't enforce its rules, but I don't know. All this stuff was happening anyway. I don't know that we're going to see some significant change in how people recruit. I don't know.
I mean, almost guarantee they won't. Go ahead, Pat.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. This had been the marketplace, and that was, the NCAA's fatal flaw here was not being able to change that marketplace to the way it was supposed to be according to the rules to begin with, and allowing a 2-year free reign before then saying, oh, wait, now we're putting that genie back in the bottle. Now we're going to get it under control. And I think the level of disconnect maybe between the real world and Indianapolis, where NCAA headquarters are, has perhaps never been bigger. And that's even with Charlie Baker in there, who I think is a little more real world than previous presidents. But, the amount of effort that goes into investigating and charging a school is immense. And I think, the NCAA went well down the road on that with Tennessee. I mean, they were ready to charge them. I don't think they ever formally did, but there were probably drafts exchanged. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, well, we're going to court. Bam! Goodbye. All that work you did is gone because maybe you shouldn't have done the work to begin with. And that's the problem here. You're trying to enforce rules that were unenforceable for years.
Said you need forensic scientists. How you get forensic accountants? How are you going to get private business? I mean, the whole thing was you were never going to be able to investigate NIL.
Well, and what's go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, what's also when it comes to the NCAA enforcing some of these rules, despite previous court cases, right, that would lead you to believe the rules are unenforceable. One of the crazy things about this is some of the most powerful people in college athletics right now disagree with what the NCAA is doing. And it's crazy, right? Like Greg Sankey has come out publicly and kind of scratch his head. Tony Petitti, same thing about what the NCAA is doing. It's like, these are some of the highest ranking folks in your organization, and they're saying, you shouldn't be doing this. And again, it just leads us back to the conversation I feel like we've had for years, is when does it come to a point where there's just a break, right? And these 2 or these 4 or whatever, however conferences go, we're out. You're obviously all your rules are against the law. We're gonna go do another thing that's legal over here. And that we're getting close, I feel like, to that point.
So one quick point back to Pat's thing, talk about the money it costs to investigate. How about the money each school spends to preemptively avoid investigation? These compliance departments.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're full of great people. They really are. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to advocate for your industry to go away, but millions and millions and millions of dollars. And then these law firms, the billable hours, just crush. I mean, unbelievable amounts of millions of dollars spent on NCAA investigations. But when you hear 13, we got a 26 person compliance department. What in the world? You've got these rules are this is insane. You're spending that much money to make sure you follow the letter of these rules to play college sports. This isn't running a nuclear reactor. What are you doing? And then, we got to hire a law firm, Ice Miller, Bond, Shonigan King. Oh, there's another form. I mean, it's like, these are not murder cases. This is the amount of money spent to follow these rules that are either dumb or marginally, they don't even matter. They don't matter. That's the biggest thing. They don't matter. They just had a rule. Well, you can't decorate a recruit's hotel room when he comes to campus. I understand why you want that rule, because some people are like, we don't want to have to do it. But who cares? Right. So now a compliance person has to, what are they checking the room? Who cares? You can't put a poster up of the kid. You can't get you can't decorate his room down there at the Marriott just for him so he feels special. What are we doing? This is not a thing. This is just not a thing. These rules. Here's the problem that they have right now. And I agree. Sankey, Petitti, is a lot of people going, wait, we got to do something different. This doesn't make sense. They're not telling it the right way, though. The people involved in college athletics are addicted to rules. They're addicted to committees. They're addicted to panels. They're addicted to subcommittees. They're addicted to subcommittees on rules and rules on subcommittees and all of it. they always think the solution is a rule, another rule. Everybody in college, not everybody, but a lot of people in college athletics, they just want more rules. If they see a problem, let's pass more rules instead of saying, maybe we should get rid of 5 of these other rules. Maybe this will just save us money. You deregulate and you have less things to worry about because most of this stuff doesn't matter. Wait a minute, there's bagel on that cream, the cream cheese on that bagel. Look out. We need a bagel cream cheese monitor, right? It doesn't matter. Let it go. The free market will sort it all out. The players will go somewhere and everyone will play. What happened when they got NIL is more talent went more places. Not the other way that you screamed. But what you have is they're so addicted to rules that when one of their rules gets taken away, the narrative and the media is at fault for this too, because they cover the sport solely from the top down. And so you have these coaches that are completely short-sighted and micro-focused on their dealings and ADs, and they're all screaming, this isn't college sports. This is the doomsday. This is horrible. All this stuff, we got to do something. You don't. No one is out there saying it's going to be okay. This isn't a big deal. And the panic, and I've never seen a sport. I'm not sure I've ever seen an industry cause more public relations damage internally by what the people in that industry are crying about than college football has.
And college basketball.
And college athletics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you talk to the average fan, they go, college athletics is screwed. It's doomed. It's horrible. And you go, why? I know I'm repeating myself, but like, I think I said, like, I was talking to an old school Michigan fan and he's like, NIL and the transfer portal are ruining college football. And I go, you just won the national title because of NIL and the transfer portal. Blake Corum is an NIL guy who came back. Right. Zach Zinter, NIL, Cornelius Johnson, all these guys.
Right.
The kid who blew up the line on the Milrow play. Transfer. You won half a title since the 40s. All of a sudden, you're nationally competitive. This thing that's helping us, awful. It's awful. So no, they go, well, those kids wanted to come to Michigan.
Yeah, see, no, that's
well, they just wanted an opportunity, right? Yeah. Yes, they did.
But when somebody wants our kids, it's a problem.
Right. So one of our yes, they did. They should. It's going to be okay. Of course you want to go to Michigan. Hey, I'm a grad student. I get a degree over here. It's a great place to play football. Of course you want to go play at Tennessee. Of course you want to play at Alabama. Of course you want to go back and say, I'm going to get some playing time and go here. We just have all the coaches and the athletic directors that are screaming doom over and over without any rationality, any proof that any of this stuff actually happened, anything, and convincing the diehards of this sport that everything is horrible when we've seen zero tangible, real proof. I'm sorry. Tennessee getting a recruit, not USC, is not the problem. That's not a thing. They both got a right to the player. They all got a right to the player. They have crushed this sport. That's the problem in college athletics, is the people inside of college athletics saying everything's terrible. You guys can tell me I'm wrong, though.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you. No, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because there's a lot of truth to that. The areas that I think where there are legitimate problems, concerns, and complaints go more to conference realignment and the future of Olympic sports. Those are the areas where I have concerns. But who's getting the players, who's paying for the players is not it. Now, I get the coaches and the ADs who do put in the sweat equity to recruit kids, and then they're gone and constantly this, that. Kids are in and out constantly. I get that's hard, but that's an evolution of the sport. That is not, the sport is falling apart. That's an evolution of the sport. Again, I would modify the transfer portal. Said it a lot. 1 free time transfer, 1 time free transfer, and then You have to sit a year, but hey, the courts have slapped that down too.
They should have done. We've said many times that was their original problem on that, but now they're going to lose restraint of trade because they've done it.
Right.
Because they've allowed it. You can't now take it back.
Right. They cracked the door open and it's eventually going to swing all the way open. So.
Same thing with the extended, how many years of eligibility you got? You got guys with 9 years of eligibility. Now you're going to say, well, someone's going to sue and say, I deserve 9 years of eligibility because I can keep making money. No, you can't. It would ruin the fabric of the sport. Well, you got to go with a guy over here that got 9 years. Well, there was the pandemic and he's hurt his knee and they're going to lose all. So they have created many of their own problems. I don't want guys playing 9 years of college football, but these are self-inflicted rules, self-inflicted mistakes. But in terms of NIL and even the transfer portal, in a lot of ways, it's just not there. I've been yelling that it would never come, and I'm still waiting. So that's where I'm at on that.
Well, the transfer thing, and I think you were going to talk about at some point, what Charlie Baker said about the transfer situation, but the transfer situation is interesting, the whole unlimited transfer, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to see the NCAA lean on academics and academic eligibility in order to move around and transfer, and that is a concern for a lot of those in the sport. Is this is still supposed to be college. You're supposed to still get a degree and go to class and all this stuff. And if you transfer, 3 or 4 or 5 times, can you really legitimately successfully work toward a degree? And so that's something that's been brought up certainly a lot. But it's just, again, it's another example of the tether between higher education and major college athletics being pulled, these two things not working together in a lot of ways.
All right, let's get to more of that right after this break. Yeah, to your point, Ross, yes, do you transfer too many times? How do you academic progress? Same time, you look at some of the stuff well, I went to UMass, Pat went to Missouri, Ross went to Mississippi State. There's no Ivy League here. We're not trying to pump up the U.S. News and World Report rankings or anything, but
your favorite
a lot of times, don't get me started on that one. A lot of times when you have I hear, well, the transfer from the Group of 5 to the Power 5, it throws them off kilter. Generally speaking, you're going from you're moving, the Power 5 are higher regarded, or I don't know, more academic, at least admission requirement, higher ranked schools, right, than the other one. So how do you deny a kid who says, hey, I'm at, I don't know, whatever. I'm at this school and now I want to go to Michigan.
Going from Troy
I want to go to
Vandy.
USC. Yeah, right. I want to go to Vanderbilt. Okay. Maybe it takes you a little longer. I don't know. Could they just give everybody 5 years of eligibility? Something like that. There's workarounds here, but certainly a concern. But you hear these, what if after 5 weeks into the season, someone wants to transfer to another school in the middle of the season? Okay. They're just throwing out the straw man on that. So I want to say this about Charlie Baker. This is the first time he did an interview with Dan Murphy at ESPN.com last week. And this is the first time I've heard anyone make these claims. And I was applauding my computer screen as I read it, because Charlie Baker was at least trying to say, no, we're not doomed. He was being an advocate for college athletics, which is what some of these guys have to do instead of telling everyone this is the worst. And he talked about the transfers, and he said, I've had conversations with a bunch of the players. They talk about coaches walk out on their contracts. What about us? And then he said, Baker said he thinks the rate of transfers in college sports reflects a larger trend of all college students changing schools more frequently than in the past. Do they transfer more than they did 10 years ago? Yes. Do they transfer more than their peers who aren't student athletes? No. They actually transfer less than students who aren't student athletes do. And kids just transfer more because they have more information, more data, and they're more impatient about a lot of things. And he goes on to basically say it's okay. The transfers are not a problem. Now, I don't know about that argument because I think a lot of kids transfer because of money, which isn't an issue if you're on scholarship. But fair enough. He's at least making a talking point to say it's okay.
Right.
And I do agree. People have way more information now. You know, when and we're a lot, you know, between all of us, we're kind of the ages of coaches and ADs and stuff like that. It's like, well, why? We had like to look through like this big, huge book that had like guide to schools. Remember? Like you had no information.
No.
They just say, school's got 30,000 kids and it's in this town. And now you go day in the life of you name the school. I can watch kids walking their life in TikTok, and I go on videos, and I can watch anything I want about any school. So he makes a good point. But I absolutely love this, that he was at least advocating for the sport. And I don't hear that from anybody. And that's
True.
what part of your job should be as the NCAA president, is say, it's okay. You guys, I know you guys are freaked out about this, but actually we're transferring less than the other kids. I'm like, oh, interesting point. Never heard it. And then I want to give this a nod to Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. Coach Dillingham. Youngest coach, he's 33 years old, right? And I think he's just looking at it, has a different perspective. He goes, he's hearing all this stuff. Oh, Chip Kelly, nobody wants to be a college coach anymore. It's the worst job, all this stuff. I joke around, but you know how many people want my job, Dillingham said? He said this on the Bickley and Murata radio show in Arizona.
Yep.
You know how many people want my assistant coaches' jobs and my analyst jobs, and my quality control, my grad assistant jobs? So don't complain about what we do. We're blessed. There's a lot of negative to it, yes, but do you know how many people want to be a college football coach? I literally spent 9 years of my life doing anything to become a coffee boy. Don't give me it's hard to be a college coach right now, then quit. You adapt, you adjust. And is it hard? Yes. But if you love it, you're going to do it, and so on. Thank you, Coach Dillingham.
I will say I communicated with Coach Dillingham after that because I liked his tone and his attitude. He said, well, mostly he was just trying to say that he loves his job. He wasn't really trying to throw anybody else under the bus, but the point was made, and the point was good. And the point is good with Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker likes college sports. I don't know how much he likes working in it, but he likes college sports and sees a lot of good things about it and will say so, and is not just a hand-wringing negative Nancy, so to speak, about what's happening, the state of things. And a lot, when he first got there, to his credit, he did either in-person meetings or Zoom calls with every conference and all three levels, Division I, II, and III. And so he got a ton of feedback. And so a lot of the feedback that he got originally was, oh my God, everything's terrible. And so that was that was the prism that he got it. And then you start going through it and you start seeing it more in action. Okay, well, maybe everything isn't terrible. And like
started talking to the players.
Yeah. The transfer stuff, with all that he heard from everybody was, we got to rein in the transfers. We got to rein in the transfers. But that's because that's the message. Everybody was like, oh my God, everything's terrible. Charlie, please change everything. I think it's coming around. That's a little bit different experience once you're actually in it.
He's talking to more voices.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point Pat makes. He met with all 97 conferences, and I'm sure he took what he heard from plenty of them, and it shaped his opinion and how he thought, which was probably, the college sports is burning because of player movement and NIL. And I think, maybe he's settled in and talked to more parties, including the players, and maybe realized a little bit of well, maybe this isn't quite accurate. But all that said, his organization's own rules, right, are being torn down. So you got to start saying and doing something different, right?
I just appreciate he's being a promoter. Other sports have promoters. and they have someone to say, settle down, it's okay. Right? Everyone flips out about like NFL refereeing in every sport. I don't care. NBA, NHL.
You ask the average fan of any of those sports, they'll say it's never been worse.
Never been worse. Right? I don't care what it is. It's fixed. It's this. It's that. And I don't care if it's Roger Goodell or Adam. So hey, look, we work with our refs all the time. They're grading out better. They promote something. Calm down. Everyone, calm the hell down. And we don't have that. And we have no advocates. There's no central PR. There's all you have are the most famous voices screaming because they don't like it. And I just really think college sports has been unbelievably damaged. They need a massive PR campaign to say it's never been better. I go back to that stat last week with the juniors going pro. College sports is burning to the ground. Everybody wants out. Everyone's chasing money. It's the Wild West. And yet 70 or 80 draft eligible players are choosing to stay and play another year in this supposed disaster zone than just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
70 or 80 guys are going, I'd rather play college football. It is so much fun. I'm making a fair wage. I want to be with my guys. I want to go win a national title. I'm Ohio State kid. I saw what those guys at Michigan did. I want to do that. I'm not going to be the 3rd round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not going to be a 5th round pick. I will wait a year. How bad is it? Who cares what Chip Kelly doesn't want to be a head coach? Or who cares what the 500 BC guy wants to go back to the NFL? The players are saying we want to stay. That should be an advertising campaign.
Well, look at the TV ratings and the attendance and all that in general.
The video football game. People can't wait for this video game.
Yeah.
It's going to be unbelievable. It's never been better, except what these old coaches tell you. And somebody's got to counteract that.
Well, and one of the problems with college football is it's completely decentralized. There's
nobody.
Voice.
So Charlie Baker is not the perfect person to do that, but I applaud him that he started doing a little of it. He should do more. And Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, Jim Phillips, and those guys should do more, and they should talk to some of their coaches to say we should do more. Because I think Harbaugh was about the only one who was like really just like, yeah, we need more of this stuff. And he ain't around anymore. And they should talk to there should be an entire campaign. And the media should stop focusing on, should ask coaches why they really are upset. You can't blame because you're not as good, or what is it? I've been listening to college coaches for 30 years, and they always have complained about everything. Just now, right, Pat? You're doing a long time.
100%.
They complained about recruiting. When I started, they were complaining about recruiting. So, all right, there'll be more on this.
What if we removed recruiting some way from college football?
Oh, now there's a topic, as a matter of fact.
We could get to that.
Draft?
That's a whole pod.
What do you want to do, a draft?
That's a whole pod that we should spend time on.
That is a whole pod. We'll do that. We'll do that in like
drop
April.
it 40 minutes into this one, but no, let's start. Let's start a pod.
I have had a long discussion with an AD about that was really interesting. Let's talk about that.
All right, we will do that. Maybe we'll do it later this week. But yeah, same way. No guardrails. Remember, I'd say it. We ain't got no guardrails. Watch. It's going to be okay. Watch what happens. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. The big topic of the weekend, though. This is a recurring one. Court storming. The Wake Forest kids got a little excited beating Duke on Saturday. Stormed the court there at Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And poor Kyle Filipowski got his knee run into as they stormed the court. This is a recurring topic that we have a lot. And John Shire, the Duke coach, came out immediately and said, when are we going to ban this? How many times does a player have to get into something where they get punched, they get pushed, they get taunted right to their face? And that also happened. If you watch the video, there's another Wake Forest kid that runs out with a cell phone and puts it right in the face of number 0-1. Dude, it's all about content. They're just taunting him. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I would have no problem if the kid just, like, you punch him back, but he can't. Anyway, court storming. Pat.
Yes.
Take it
once
away.
again. Well, once again, I will say this is not like the people that I have heard from. They're like, well, Filipowski wasn't moving fast enough to get off the court. The same people they were saying Caitlin Clark was moving too fast to get off the court.
Did she take the flop though? Kinda. That's
that is immaterial. Here's the deal.
It is. It shouldn't be on the court. Can't be on the court. I got you.
You can't be on the court. If you're out driving and you get in a no-fault collision with a 14-year-old driver, guess who's in trouble? The 14-year-old who isn't supposed to be driving.
Yeah.
Same thing with the people that aren't supposed to be on the court or on the field. You're not supposed to be there. You're the one creating the problem here. And so, here's the thing. Football game. Dude runs on the field. TV broadcast won't show it. He's on the field running around during the game. Everybody wants what? They want that guy to get his clock cleaned by either security or one of the players. Go bust his ass. Go knock him down.
Put him in jail. Spend a night in jail. Yep.
Yeah. This is like, let him go. It doesn't matter if they run into a player and hurt the player potentially who's a lottery pick.
Yeah. Or literally Caitlin Clark, who's worth gazillion dollars to college sports. Like, we need to protect Caitlin Clark, please. We need something to watch in March.
The most valuable commodity in college basketball, men or women. So no, they got to do something, in my opinion. Maybe they need guardrails. Sorry, but
this one maybe
literal guardrails.
Literal guardrails. And they, schools have kind of half-assed this thing. Like, if we do this, we increase the fines don't work. You can't really have enough security, so you've got to. There has to be a disincentive that is strong enough. And I go back. The SEC talked about semi-seriously forfeiting a home game. There was some talk of outright forfeiting that game that was stormed, where you get a loss. But beyond that, the more serious discussion was you lose a home game the next year, and that was deemed too extreme. But I think it's time to revisit that. Or you just arrest everybody who's on the court, which is
that's
a little
what I was
harder
going to say.
do.
One of the things you probably could do is start at least fining individual people with the citations or arrest them. I mean, that's like, I don't know what else you could do except have around encircling a court, 300 security people. Like, I don't know what else with batons or something. Like, I don't know what else you could do except, start to cite individuals and find them through video camera work and in identification, like video identification. And they get a check, they get a fine in the mail, like $500. You violated the court whatever policy. So that's all I can kind of think of, because the school fines, the fans don't care about them, and schools don't seem to care quite enough to hire that 200-300 security. But we have seen in the SEC, we have seen fairly drastic, measures taken. I remember being at a couple games last year, and you could tell the security surrounding the field was certainly had increased from what I had previously seen. And I think it's probably because of the $1 million fines that the SEC had levied or was changing their fine structure. I think it had some impact on the security at games. But unless you're finding individuals and their pocketbook is hurt in some way, I don't know what else you could do to stop this.
Forfeit the game. That's one. Forfeit the game. Now you have to look out for the imposter fan. Okay, you got to be on the lookout for the Duke fan.
I would
forfeiting
love
the
to
game
see that
seems
actually work.
incredibly
I mean,
complicated.
that is
gotta
not happening.
All of a sudden,
That is not happening.
but you've got a lot of cameras across. You could prove that the guy in the Wake jersey was actually rooting for Duke the whole time. Like, it'd be very. Got to look out for the imposter. All of a sudden, like that one-man court storm at Detroit Mercy. Like, that would suck, right? They finally win their first game of the entire season.
I think you let the
And then the
70-year-old
one guy,
court
a
stormer.
70-year-old man runs out on the court at Detroit Mercy. And you'd let it, Jerry, he cost us the game.
Well, there can be a little interpretive license there for Jerry.
No. Another panel. We need another panel. Okay, so you can do that, but you gotta look out for the imposter. Okay. You can fine them and it goes into the collective to buy next year's recruiting class. But I don't think the players care. First off, the schools celebrate this stuff. Okay, the schools celebrate it.
So does the media.
It's
on the
media.
So does the media. Of course. What was better than Tennessee beating Alabama? Like that, the visual of that was incredible. Michigan beats Ohio State. And I'm celebrating it. Right, I have no shame. We talked about, they took threw it in the Tennessee River, and it was great. It was
Remember what the Tennessee president said? We'll take another fine. We'll do this all over again.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Greg Sankey loved that. By
the marketing power of that visual, though, is worth more than any fine. Okay, so that's not going to work. 3 or 4, wherever we're at. The students now are all about content. If you watch, these guys are all running out with their phones.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just want the video. They want experiences. That's what you cannot get a bunch of 19-year-olds sees positive content for their social media. They are like a lion going after a wounded gazelle.
That's a good way to identify an individual who stormed the court on their social media.
Yeah, you can find them. But yes, you can find them. So that ain't good. All right. Possible solutions. Allow the players to assault the fans with no legal penalty. Walk up to Filipowski when he has a free shot at you. Power slap. How about every guy in the court, we cage him in. Okay, we build a quick cage, and then everyone, one by one, has to get power slapped by the Duke basketball team. See how many run out there.
Stop shilling for power slap. That's enough of that.
Power slap. Okay.
Well, Caitlin Clark did the forearm, the running forearm.
Yes,
pretty
and she
good.
Deserved it.
That fan got it right in the neck.
She deserved it. Yay. I mean, Caitlin Clark knocked down pretty much any guy too, but that young woman, you want to get hit by Caitlin Clark? Come on, bring it on. So
she has
that's
a story
one
for the rest of her life.
Probably not what we're going for. Probably not a real solution that could do. I mean, look, type in if you want to see a hysterical video or horrifying, depends how you look at it. The 1976 ALCS Game 5.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Chris Chambliss of the Yankees hits a home run to beat Kansas City. And what happens is they literally have 1,000 New York NYPD there. And they're trying to get out, but the fans just go bananas. He can't make it to second base. Fans are trying
having to shove people out of the way.
They're stealing his hat. People are ripping the bases up. It's total mayhem in New York City in 1976. And you're like, wait, people behaved like this? And I know it seems like, well, of course they're going to storm the court, but this, whatever that was, almost 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, people would be like, yeah, this is how you do it if you win a big baseball game. All the people go out and trash the field, rip up the field, go crazy. Wait, what? So at the NBA finals, when they stopped it, you could see those Celtics, Lakers, and stuff like that. Basketball's scarier. Football, there's some space. Mm-hmm. And you got to get over a wall. Basketball, it's just they are out there in a second. They started ringing at the end of championship games. They'd ring the court in with cops. We need a lot of cops. I don't know. Right now, the schools have to actually want to get rid of this, and they don't.
Right, and they don't. No, that's why it's been half-hearted measures.
It's going to go until Caitlin Clark tears her ACL and sues.
Yeah.
Or Filipowski sues, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But
that's a good point. Legal stuff, Michael McCann actually, of Sportico, I think, wrote a story this weekend about how a lawsuit, right? That this court storming could bring up a lawsuit at some point and it'd be just another legal loss for college sports because they're not protecting the players, on the court.
Probably about the only thing that could they could do it. I don't know. Any other solutions?
No, I mean, let's say you either arrest them or you use a forfeit structure. That's that. But that's, look, one of the things that did stop with the pros, with baseball and basketball, is either people getting arrested or so much police presence that they stop people from even getting there.
Those are also rich people down there.
Now, absolutely. I mean, in the NBA finals, there are no common fans in the arena for that.
And a 19-year-old getting arrested, like, what is the penalty really going to be? It's going to be like a citation. I mean, you could turn it into what are you going to do? Make it a felony? Like, at some point, the courts aren't going to play along. But even then,
do you want your docket in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, jammed with 250 citations on Monday
morning? It might be more than that, even, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know. And then honestly, if the kids can film themselves getting arrested, they'll just get arrested. They don't care. They do not care. Ross, you had some enforcement, some penalties that they're thinking of adding going forward. What do you got? You were down in Charlotte this week.
Yeah, the NCAA Committee on Infractions met in Charlotte and just kind of let some selected media into their meeting. I think Pat went actually last year. And this year, I thought the most interesting thing to come of it, you sit in there for a couple hours or so, was their discussion of suspending and even handing show causes to athletic directors, compliance staff members, and even university presidents who are at the center of NCAA investigations and enforcement action. So they talked about that for a while. It was one of the big topics. At the NCAA convention, the membership, the schools themselves, passed this rule, basically that allowed suspensions for those non-coaching members. And now the Committee on Infractions has got to take that and apply it. And so we're discussing how to apply it in the scope of applying suspensions to non-coaching members or even non-athletic department members and how you would do that. So some examples were, an athletic director not being involved in athletic fundraising or such, or attending athletic events for a certain amount of time, or a compliance staff member, same thing. A tutor or something, if they were at the center of an NCAA investigation, not being able to tutor athletes for a certain amount of time. So they were discussing all this stuff, and I would imagine going forward, we may see some non-coaching members not just suspended who are at the center of NCAA investigations, but there's another part of this they discussed, and that was naming in infractions reports, naming people, revealing their identity, which again is somewhat uncommon right now. A lot of names are removed, and you just have ex-coach or ex-athletic director, or something
assistant
like that.
Coach 1,
yeah,
assistant coach 2.
So now they're talking about naming individuals, specifically athletic directors and presidents, even, who are involved in investigations. Now, Dan, I know what you're probably going to say, right? Mm-hmm. Like, all this is this is going on in a boardroom in Charlotte, talking about how to apply NCAA rules, the same NCAA rules, a lot of the same NCAA rules, right? That are being challenged in court and are suffering losses. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't lost on me sitting in that room, right? And you look around, and we were even given about 30 minutes on the record to ask questions to them, and a lot of the questions revolved around, hey, you're applying rules that many of them are deemed illegal. How do you feel about that? So it was interesting to at that point be in that room with everything that's going on outside of the room.
Yeah. Here's the thing I think is interesting going forward. I'll just do this briefly because we talk about it more. But especially with NIL, no rules on NIL. What most of the penalties the NCAA now applies that uses to punish people for whatever they're punished for are obsolete. Scholarship reductions you can overtake by having the collective pay the tuition, room, and board. Coaches' visits on the road don't really matter in the NIL, the way NIL recruiting is done. Official visits a collective can pay for. If you say, hey, you can't bring any recruits in on official visits, well, the collective can. The transfer portal allows you to stay old. The freshman recruiting doesn't matter as much. Most of the penalties they used to use to quote unquote hammer schools were built for the old way of recruiting, which is really all that matters. And the new way of recruiting, they have no teeth. You can ban people from the postseason. You can vacate games. No one cares about that. They don't want to ban people from the postseason.
They do not want to ban people from the postseason.
You can suspend coaches. And they seem to want to do more of that, maybe. And this suggests maybe ADs and presidents too. But I just think the NCAA will have very little ability to enforce any rule. And so something like advanced scouting by Michigan, if they were to prove, as we expect, some conduct by Connor Stallions that they don't really have at least the spirit of the rules. What do you do to Michigan that actually would punish them? Like what can you do? You can suspend Harbaugh. You could suspend Sharon Moore some games, I guess, like just as a head coach. But if you sit there and say we're going to take 10 scholarships away, whatever Michigan's collective is like, yeah, whatever, we got that, we cover that. Like I don't know if they can punish anybody for anything much anymore.
Well, I mean, A, what the punishments are, and B, yes, are any of your rules still applicable? I mean, the Connor Stallions case, I suppose they are, but
that's like like maybe something like that, right? Because that's not. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to be like, no, you have the right to send your buddies to the game and film. I mean, I don't know.
But recruiting inducements, there are all. I mean, there are no longer any impermissible benefits that I can figure. None. And there goes a lot of the cases right
and
there.
There go the penalties. The penalties are based on stopping you from recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can just have your third-party collective set up contracts with the players, then that's not how we recruit anymore.
Yeah, right. I mean, yes, that's absolutely possible. Now, eventually, if you're asking them to fund 15 scholarships a year and most of them are out of state, they may be like, hey, you know what? This is more money than we want to spend on your recruiting. But depending on the school, Michigan's a different animal.
Yeah.
Michigan is not Boston College or, Pittsburgh or,
Yeah. The bigger I guess the bigger schools will not blink at it.
They did discuss, the Committee on Infractions did, while we were in there, discuss, postseason bans, obviously. And the conversation kind of went to, which we've talked about, I think, on the pod after the Tennessee case, not the NIL case, but the previous case with Jeremy Pruitt in recruiting violations, how they were not hit with a postseason ban, but they were hit with a financial penalty. And they discussed that's kind of what they're moving, the direction in which they're moving. However, they discussed the vacating of records and wins. And they want to continue to do that. They support that, and the support continuing to have that as an enforcement tool. In fact, they're making the vacating of records. They're trying to make it a quote core penalty, which would give the infractions committee more access to use the penalty in a variety of cases. Now I know the reaction to this, me too, in part, is like kind of an eye roll when it comes to vacating records. But they believe that it's the only penalty that they can deliver that reflects whatever the violation was at the time, that really penalizes that violator or violators at the time. But some probably disagree with that.
Yeah.
Might be.
Well, yeah, I mean, that might be the only applicable penalty. And I will say my experience is that nobody cares about vacated records until it's your team being vacated. Like, go ask the Louisville fans how they feel about not having a 2013 national championship banner hanging in their arena. They're still furious about it. Go ask Syracuse fans how they feel about Jim Boeheim's victory total. They're all, I hear from them all the time. Reinstate Jim's wins. UConn, Jim Calhoun, et cetera, et cetera. So they care about it. But in general, like the general fans sitting there saying, who cares whether Louisville has a banner or not? But Louisville fans do.
It's sort of like your rival fan gets to taunt you with it. Like that's the penalty. But again, like it's not really a penalty that will. It used to be you broke the rules, you got caught, they stripped you of all your scholarships, they limited your recruiting to the point where you couldn't field as competitive of a team for a few years, and that was like the ruler on the knuckles, right? Knock it off, you're not going to win, and so okay, if we compliant, we can win. Now you can get past all those. That's I think I have to look a little bit more into all of their penalties, but they need new penalties. Now, if you start sitting there saying I don't even know how they could do this, but like your collective can't operate, right? It's just the rules are built for 4 years ago, not now. The game has changed so dramatically. So, go ahead, Ross.
No, well, I mean that happened with the Florida State case, right? Your collective, you cannot have communication with your collective. Now, Florida State had two collectives, so one of them was already being phased out. Was the one that was penalized, probably because partly it was going to be penalized. So I don't know what damage that did.
I'm thinking the collective.
That's why you need quality collective depth. You need a backup collective and a third string collective.
That's right.
Well, it's redshirting collective.
We got one out of the transfer portal. We got Central Florida's collective to come up here.
It gets to the point that Dan was making. No, the NCAA, even if it does enforce its penalties and is allowed to enforce its penalties by the courts, even when it's not ruled that illegal, then it's still tough to enforce penalties that matter. It just is.
They got to come up with something because you got to have some kind. Like certain things are violations. I know everyone hates the rule book, but there are certain violations that are like, hey, you can't do this, right? So, I don't know. Anyway, all right, we got another scandal here. First, a quick update. Hundreds of people went to the candlelight vigil in Charleston for the.
I prefer visual candlelight visual.
The visual. A lot of coverage from the local TV, WCHS TV. It's got a report. Great stuff. They had chicken wings. The Hooters people got involved. They heard about it, corporate, and sent a bunch of chicken wings up to Charleston. And the people got their candlelight vigil. Unfortunately, it is going down. However, it is being replaced by a Sheetz gas station. And Sheetz that's pretty good. That's if.
Solid gas station.
High-end convenience store.
Yeah, high-end, great food. Yeah. Oh, yeah, good food. The people, life in Charleston will go on well. I understand you loved your Hooters. I'm not gonna fight you on that, but Sheetz is a pretty good replacement. It's not like they just threw in like an auto parts store or something like that. You're like, a little more convenient, but not like it's not bad. Not bad right there. So, but they did do all that. But as for controversy, we have this. This is I would love to see how the NCAA handles this because the Guinness Book of World Records is handling it. USA Today. The world's oldest dog has officially been stripped of his Guinness record. People were cheating, claiming their dog was...
They vacated the dog.
They vacated the dog. The dog is Bobby. Bobby the dog. He lives in Portugal, although I think he's dead now.
Oh.
Died. Yeah, he died. Sorry. So he's no
R.I.P.
longer the
Bobby.
world. He's the oldest dog to ever live. He is a Rafero do Alentejo. It's a type of dog, a breed of dog. I don't know. Anyway, 8 months in February 2023, he was deemed the world's oldest dog at 31 years old.
Jesus.
31. So in dog years, right? 7 years. So
that's 210.
217 years.
Yeah.
That's like some biblical stuff, man. I
There's
mean,
Methuselah and there's Bobby.
In the Bible, people live 500 years all the time. So I'm guessing Bible dogs were like, they would knock out they must have had some 200. I mean, there were dogs back then, right?
Yes, there were. I don't know how many of them made the Bible. Frankly,
I don't think but I'm just assuming, right? I don't know they were in the. All right, we'll leave that to. Our pastors can let us know. I'm assuming if men live 500 years in the Bible, that the dogs probably were knocking out. But anyway, Guinness wasn't around then. They've been brewing Guinness a long time. Not in the Bible though. So there were more wine drinkers. Anyway, Guinness has spent the last month investigating Bobby, the 31-year-old from Portugal, in response to numerous veterinarians expressing concern and skepticism over the dog's age. After reviewing evidence on file, seeking new evidence, reaching out to experts and those linked to the original application, they said that Guinness no longer has the evidence it needs to support Bobby's claim as the record holder. I'm not really sure. It's a little confusing how they even were able to claim this thing was 31 years old. I'm sure it was an old dog. It was a stray at one point. So then that
makes
led
it tough right there.
That led it tough. Yeah. Lived 93 miles north of Lisbon. So no one's quite sure. Guinness is stripped. So we have a cheating scandal. His family has not responded yet. I believe they've hired Bond, Shonigan King, Tom Mars. Is Tom Mars in on this?
Oh, Tom Mars is working the case.
Tom Mars
Check Twitter. He'll be sounding off about it.
Tom Mars will be ripping the Guinness Book of World Records. 31-year-old dog. Justice Forde, your thoughts on this? Was this dog 31 years? We don't have a lot of evidence, but who's to say? I don't know. What do you got?
Who is to say? What's our media source on this? Who wrote
USA Today? This is like reputable. Yeah,
okay.
A lot of people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I remember like when I was a kid, the Guinness Book of World Records was the coolest thing you could ever have. You know, I was like 10 or 12 or something. I have not looked at it in, I don't know, 3 or 4 decades since then, but I can't imagine a lot of the stuff in there is actually accurate. Is it? Like, I remember there was one thing about a woman they said was the meanest woman in the world. Like, how do you decide that? Who gets to decide? They said that she ate cold porridge because she was too mean to heat it. Like, where are we going here? How are we deciding these things?
What?
So, you know,
40.
It's a book you're supposed to have at a bar to promote the beer. Like, that's the thing. Like, what is this thing, right? The Guinness Book. To settle bar bets before Google.
Exactly. It was pre-Google bar bets. Absolutely. So I much like a lot of fans that don't get worried about vacated records, I can't get too worried about vacating Bobby. I say let Bobby, in my heart and soul, Bobby will still be the record holder.
Okay.
Even if he has been stripped of his title.
Sorry, now I'm obsessed with this mean woman.
Yeah.
That Pat's talking about. So I Googled it. One of the first things that come up when you Google Guinness Book of World Records meanest woman in the world is the most prolific female murderer.
Oh my!
Well, that's pretty mean. That's meaner.
I mean, that's a lot meaner than cold porridge.
Yeah,
is hacking people to pieces. Apparently, like this woman did. So, all right.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the question?
You think the dog was 31? I don't know. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, it seems like dogs and people in Europe live a lot longer than us, though. I don't know what they're doing right.
Yeah.
A little healthier living.
Yeah. Less processed food. Could be. R.I.P. Bobby. You're 31 to me. I don't know. Not a day over 31. Yeah. I mean, I just like all the vets going, wait, what? Dog, 31. And
also,
the claim,
a year-long investigation? Really?
Yeah,
months.
Spent a lot of time on this.
Months, yeah. This is the Wheels of Justice in Indianapolis and at the Guinness Book of World Record in, I assume, Dublin. These guys are like, free trip to Lisbon. Let's go down there and investigate. Take a couple months.
Dog.
It's kind of dreary in Dublin over the winter.
Right.
Who doesn't want to go to Lisbon?
the expense report for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I think I'm sure he was old, but sketchy when it was found as a stray.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
We need the origin story of Bobby.
We need more info on this. I'll check the Daily Mail was probably on it. All right. That's our show. We will be back later this week. Continue to subscribe, share us on social media. Talk to you later.